But tonight I'm going to speak on seasons of change. Seasons of change. It seems like many of us are going through a season of change. Sometimes some of us think, when is this season going to stop changing? But definitely a season of change. The Bible speaks of being instant in season and out of season. Season is a state. It is a time. It is a period regulated by law. It's an opportune time. A season is a right time. It's a state of readiness. A state of readiness. An opportune time. So when I think of the seasons, I think of spring and summer and winter and fall. The Lord put 4 seasons. Some states have nice 4 seasons. Others, where I'm from Michigan, and they always joke that you have basically a winter and summer. You don't really have anything in between because winter's about 9 months, and so fall and spring are about this long. But springtime, when we think of spring, what do we think of? We think of new beginnings. We think of things. We think of little baby animals being born and new things starting. When we think of summer, well, down here I think of it being very hot. I've been loving this last week because I'm used to temperatures that are much more normal like this, like we've had here the last few weeks. But we think of things growing, and we think of flowers and things like that. When I think of winter, I think of later in life. I think of things being dead. I think of the time that I had to jump out of the bedroom window into the snowbank and walk around through the snow, get the shovel, and shovel a path to the door and get the snow, which was that high, in the door off so that I could open the door and get the kids out to take them to daycare. That's what I think of. Now, if you've never had that experience, you have not lived in the North, let me tell you. Once a year you have these stories of being dumped on in the snow. I think of hibernating. I think of sacking in and just really getting alone with God. Because in the wintertime we build fires and we sit and drink tea and we spend time reading. But right now we're about to go into fall. And fall is my favorite time of year. I don't know about you, but fall is my favorite season. And one thing I like about living down here is we have a nice long fall. And fall is a time where there's football. I love football. Well, if you grew up in my household, you had to love football. And I really had no choice. When my son started playing football, I decided I could learn this game, or I could sit on the bench for the next 8 years and be bored. So I learned football. And he started in 7th grade and went on and did 2 years of college in football until he went off to ministry school. And I learned the game of football. So when I start smelling those crackling leaves like we're starting to get in that time, and we just moved to a place where there is a high school the next block over, and I can hear them practicing, and I can hear the whistle going, and I can hear the coach yelling at the kids and everything, and so I'm starting to get excited that football is around. But I think of harvest time. I think of the pumpkins and the squash and the apples and going and being able to get the good stuff from the store and that kind of thing. As I've been spending what time I could outside in our new place of residence, there's been a lot of blowing wind, and the Lord has reminded me of His voice in the wind, and it's just been very refreshing. I spend as much time, it's just funny because I've just been spending so much time outside, and I'm not really an outdoor person, but there's just been something very peaceful about this new place that we're at. I think of the coming rains, both in the spirit and in the natural. And hopefully we will get some this weekend, as it keeps looking like it's going to do that out there, but it really hasn't broke loose now, has it? Kind of spit a little when I was traveling here tonight. And I think of the storing up of food. That's when there's a lot of canning that goes on and a lot of getting prepared for the winter months, it was not unlikely in Michigan to go at least a week every year without electricity. And sometimes you have that kind of thing down here with your ice storms, that something happens. I know last year we had a time where we couldn't get out for about a week, and when it just dumps, there's nowhere that they can really, there's not that much that they can do to clear it out, and everyone just has to kind of wait for it to get going again. So I remember that we would always prepare, we would always have stuff on hand and that kind of thing. And I don't know about you ladies, but my husband's infamous for bringing people home for dinner. Usually without telling. So I learned 20 years ago that I always have extra on hand. Always. They go, you can throw on some more rice, you can throw on more potatoes, you grab something out of the freezer, you can make it work. But I always have stuff on hand because that was just something he's just always done, and I've learned to adapt. So then I think of fall in the spirit. Okay, if we are taking, and in the natural we're storing up, this is a time that we should be preparing, a time that when we wake up every day, we say, Lord, who can I bless today? What can I do today? See, a lot of us are thinking about things that are going to happen in the future, but there has to be a balance. There has to be a balance, and I do it myself. I'm thinking, Lord, if this would just happen, or if we can just get to this particular point. But what do I wake up and do every day to try to help somebody else? And that leads me to a handout I want to give you. And it is entitled The Top 100 Things That Disappear in the Event of an Emergency. There's 2 pages. Would you mind passing that out for me? Thank you. And some of you may already have this. It's just something that you can look over as we go. Let's look at the word change. The word change. Change. How many of you ever heard change is the only constant? Any physics majors? Change. Unbelievably, the only thing that you can count on is that there will be change. Change is to transform or convert. It's a substitute or exchange. Like exchanging our personality for the Lord's. Change is to transfer, like transferring our character for His. Change will always happen, and it's the only thing that will remain the same over the years. So the question is, how do we handle that? How do we handle change? Do we get stressed out? It's hard, isn't it? Somebody all of a sudden changes software at work, and you have to suddenly learn a whole new system in order to do the same job in the same amount of time period that you had to do before, but now you got to figure out how to do it all over again. Very stressful. Do we get short-fused? Do we lose our temper more easy because of change? Do we worry? I can tell you this last month, there were times I was getting a little stressed out and worried because they were changing the home I was living in into a women's center, and I couldn't find a place to live. And every door I went to got shut in my face. I would be on my way to view a home with a rental company, and they'd call me up and say, oh, sorry, we just rented it. And this happened over and over and over. Or we would go and look at a home, and they say, well, this will be ready in a week. We're remodeling it. And the good news is this is in a great part of town. While we were working on it, and when we left, some people broke into it, and the neighbors called 911 and got the police here right away. And so you can be rest assured that the neighbors are looking out for you. And I'm thinking, is that supposed to be comforting? The people broke into the house, and so this is a good neighborhood. I've already been that route when we lived in Flint, Michigan. I don't want to go back there at this point in time.